Yeah, hi, I'm Roy from New York. I have my MacKissic shredder chipper behind me. It's the model 12PT. And today I'm going to be replacing these plates, these shredding plates, which are also known as hammers. And as you can see on this particular plate, it's worn on the one corner. That's from 10 years of use. The other corners are still intact. So what we're going to do today is take these off and just rotate them. So now the cutting will be done by this side. All right. The instructions that came with the machine were a bit vague. So I went on the internet and I really couldn't find any help. So I decided to jump in this on my own. So it should be interesting. At the same time, I'm going to do this video and maybe it'll help somebody else out. All right, so let's get going. Okay, first we'll start by removing the belt cover, and there are 3 bolts holding that on. 2 are visible from the outside of the machine. There's 1 and 2, and the third bolt is on the inside of the machine. We have to remove the back plate cover to get to it. So these are 9/16 of an inch, and the one inside the machine is a 1/2 inch. Okay, this is the third connector for the belt cover. And you also see an access plate there. So we have to go on the inside of the shredder to access the bolt to remove this. Okay, next we have to access the inside of the shredder. And to do this, we have to remove the baffle plate and the chipper screen, so we get access to the rotor and to the bolt holding the access plate. Oh yeah, the manufacturer recommends disconnecting the spark plug, which I did. So just pull the wire off the plug and play it safe. Okay, here you see the bolt that holds on the access plate. That's the bolt. Right below it is the access plate. You also see that there are 24 hammers in the rotor unit. There's 6 on each rod, and each rod has connectors between the hammers. On the right hand side you see that's the groove pin. That has to be removed in order to take the hammers off. Okay, here you see me blocking up the rotors to keep them from moving while I work on the groove pin. The groove pin is put on with some Loctite or a Loctite type of product to keep it from coming loose or vibrating. So I have to use a torch on it to break down the compound. And then once I have it broken down, I'll be able to tap the groove pin out. Okay, next I'm going to use a rod to tap the groove pin out. And in this case, I had my ratchet rod there, so I grabbed that. It's probably not the tool made for that, but it seemed to work. I also have a metal bar I used later on, which is about a 1/2 inch diameter, and it also worked. So once I tap the groove pin down and get it to go through the rod, I'll be able to pull it out with a pair of vice grips. There you go. There's the groove pin. I'll put it back temporarily. Okay, now once I have the groove pin removed, I can now take out the hammers and connectors and the rod. Now the rod will be extracted through the side of the chipper through the access port. So let's start with one of the first connectors. Now it's very important that these connectors be kept in order when you take them off, because they are different sizes. Some are narrow and some are thicker. And the hammers are also in specific places on the rod. Each rod is different. Just remember, there's 4 rods and 6 hammers on each rod. So what I'm doing now is just extracting one at a time, and I am keeping track of the order of the connectors. And you'll see later on how I do that. See the different sizes? Now it's not necessary to keep the order of the hammers in order because they're basically all the same. But the connectors are different, and the order the connectors go in is different each time. So now I'm extracting the rod through the access port. Okay, now here you can see how I kept track of the order of the connectors that I took out. I put them on a piece of wire, electrical wire, 14 gauge as it turns out. But that's very important to keep track of those so that I can put them back in easily. Now it's important to notice that I have the good corner of the hammer facing towards me. The worn corner of the hammer is actually on the inside. It's hard to make out in the video, but the worn corners are on the inside and the sharp corners are on the outside. And I'm keeping track of those connectors as I put them in. Okay, that's the last connector, and that's the very narrow connector. And now I'll put in the groove pin. And when I put the pin in, one end of the pin seems to be have less of a groove, and that'll be the one that I have to get in there. So I flip that over, and it slides right in. Now later on, I will put some Loctite on that and drive those in so they don't come out. Okay, next I'm going to be setting the groove pins into the rods so they don't come out when the rods are spinning. This is a product known as Permatex. I'll put that on the on the groove pin to set them so they don't come out. The manufacturer recommends using Loctite 243. My hardware store didn't have that, but it had this Permatex. It's a thread locker, and it's a medium hold, and it's not permanent. It can be removed. So I'm going with this. Now I'm giving it a few taps with a light hammer, and you want to make sure that the pin is driven in deep enough. You don't want it overly driven in, so you can never get it out. But this is a metal bar I had. I gave that a few taps. I found that seems to help a lot too. So I use that in lieu of the ratchet I had before. Okay, and I'll give all the pins a final check before I start the machine up. I'm going to let it sit for 24 hours so the thread locker cures before I run the machine. Okay, before putting the belt guard back on, I decided to give the chipper a oil change and to tighten its belt. So kill two birds with one stone. Or is that three birds? Okay, my oil change is finished and my belt's adjusted. Now I'm going to put on the access plate and readjust the belt guard. Then all I have to do after that is put on the screen and the baffle plate. And that should be it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and it comes in handy someday. Take care.